This is Destabilizing Disability, and we're going to talk about how we are chronically broke.
But not a joke.
Hmm, that was corny. Well, first of all, can we talk about how expensive it is to be disabled or have chronic illness, anything of the sort?
Oh yeah, seeing all that stuff with the specialists, appointments, all those things are like, wow, like slap in the face. Wow, figurative and probably literal because I'm probably slapping myself in the face.
Wow, okay, that's not okay. I hope you're okay. Uh, but the amount of medical bills that we have, so maybe some normal ones, like the amount of times, that one year, the amount of times, this happened a couple years since we've been married, but that I went to the ER and to patient first,
Mm,
that alone just destroyed us that year.
yeah.
And then I went to a couple specialists, had some little procedures done, and that also, uh, not great. And can I just say, at some point, this is before we were married, but at some point, a doctor wanted to test me for narcolepsy. They said I have narcolepsy, the end, and I was to get tested for it. So I went to a local hospital. I slept overnight and they did all the stuff. And then I had to stay during the day as well. And you're like hooked up to all of these things. And it's a very weird experience, to be honest. They bring you breakfast, there's Wi-Fi. You just stay in a room and people are just like watching you in another room and you just get to know that. Anyways, let's just say I didn't sleep as well as like I could have. And that alone, we had insurance that was supposed to be really great. It had been really great for us so far because I was under my parents' insurance and, they had a good job and all the things. And after insurance, all of the things, we still had to pay out of pocket a couple $1,000s.
Wow. Yeah. Like you said, I wasn't around for that, but just what you went through, what all you had to go through to get that accomplished, and then not to mention the cost of it afterwards. Uh, no.
That was the most expensive Airbnb night I've ever had.
And they didn't even give you like a little care package like some of them do, or whatever you call them.
No, my care package was an extra diagnosis that I was not expecting that year. Okay, so one that did happen when we were married is I was having a hard time keeping hydrated, and it was causing a lot of other issues as well. If you know, you know. Chronically dehydrated. Anyways, so I had found some service because we were ending up in like the ER or whatever so much just so that they could give me fluids. I did a whole Google search for hours and days and finally found someone near us that did like, all those like cocktail special IV bags, but they also did just plain fluids. So we had them come over to our house a couple times because it was killing us how much time we were spending in the ER and the specialist and everything as I was just not as stable as a person should be. But the fluids seemed to really, really, really help. So I found someone and I was like, let's just do this a couple times every once in a while when we need it so that we don't have to go to the hospital, wait all day, be there all day. Then they have to check other things. A lot of times they would give me some other stuff. Like it just, for our sanity to stay at home and it be a calmer experience and just get what I need and call it a day. So we decided to do that. And well, that was like $250 a bag. And I think you're supposed to tip the nurse that comes out that sits with you. It was a really great experience, though. If we were rich and just had, forever money, I would say that was one of the best experience, well worth the money. But we just didn't have endless resources at the time because of all of the hospital bills and everything that was going on. And then they had like some package deal thing that if you bought like so many IV bags for the month, for like, 400, 800, 1,000, whatever it was, then it was a little bit less than if you just called and was like, can someone come today? And we did that, and we let some of them build up so that they could come. And we were using some of them while letting them build up, and then you're supposed to be able to use them whenever. And then I asked to stop that because we finally got things under control and found some other ways that we could do it without paying. Like, and then my body started holding water better, and I could drink water, and I found some electrolytes that I can drink. Like, all the thing, like, all with that particular, we didn't need it anymore. We had something else covering it. And so I wanted to cancel it, and it was impossible to cancel. And they were like, "Oh, I know your nurse just told you about this or whatever, but you have to be signed up for like 6 months or something. When you sign up, it's for at least 6 months and you can't cancel it." And I was like, "Whoa." I did not realize that when I signed the dotted line and gave you my credit card number. So, I didn't we that those IVs that are all stored up somewhere for some amount of money are just out in no man's land. And they said that you can't use them either if you're not active in the package. So I couldn't cancel the package and then still use the ones that I had stored up. And I was like, okay, I got scammed. I didn't necessarily get scammed, and I should have read the fine print a little bit better in the middle of my crisis. Um, but my goodness, that was expensive. And it was something that was like I needed, and I didn't want to get in such a crisis high, the hospital. Not to mention at the time it was during the pandemic. So going to the hospital meant being with all these people, and our hospitals were full. So a lot of times I'm just like on a bed and a gurney thing out in the middle of a hallway, and the hospital we went to that's close to us is also really close to a prison or jail. So
Mm-hmm.
then there's like you're in the hallway, and then there's a policeman and his little jail guy that he's watching, and then I'm just trying to lay there, get IVs, and like stay conscious. And
Yeah.
it was so much it was so much calmer and so much better to be at home. Yeah, and then you're with me and you not getting anything done, and we're both it was a mess. It was a mess, and it was an expensive mess at the end of the day. Either way.
The only real good thing about that situation was like what you brought up was the actual person that came. That was literally it. Like she was very nice and very
Loved her.
warm, and she enjoyed being there. It seemed like, she would talk about her grandma, I think, stuff like that. So, it wasn't just like, I'm here to do a job, do it, peace out. She was very nice. And so that at least made it better. But yeah, I would be definitely okay with not doing that ever again unless it was absolutely necessary.
Agreed, agreed, agreed on all of those points. I have another story that comes to mind where I feel like I actually did get scammed. Like, not really, but really. So, I was having a lot of issues, and the ER normal doctors, they were all like, we can't help you, and we can't run the tests that you should probably get run for you, that are a little bit not as mainstream. And you need a special doctor to order those where we live, anyways. So I found a functional doctor. Now, this doctor is a doctor that I've heard the name of before. I'm familiar ish. Like, I had it in my mind years ago that this is a doctor I wanted to see at some point, maybe. But you have to pay for access to this doctor. So it's a couple $1,000s just to be able to get access to him, and you have to be on a waiting list for however long. I think it was months and months at the time. I think years ago like the waiting list wasn't even open cuz he was full, and he stays full. And now fast forward to, I'm having a hard time, and the doctors are like, you're not getting stable, we can't help you, we don't know what's wrong, and we can't order the kind of test that you need, and we're not really in that field anyway, so we wouldn't be able to read it. So you need to find this doctor. You need to get whatever test done over there, and, move on that way. Sounds great. So this functional doctor, his wait list opens up. I get on the wait list, and it turns out that he had actually hired another doctor with his practice to do the same thing, right? So I'm like, cool, this guy's going to help me. He's working with the right people, he's got the right education, you know, all the things. So I go, and the main doctor that I'd wanted to see, he was all full, but his little apprentice guy that's now working and doing stuff is open. So I get on the wait list, I pay my couple $1,000s, and this is how it goes. I'm going to tell you every painstaking detail because I had to live through it, and so now you do too. And you were there, so you already lived through it too. But you're living through it again today. So, what I'm thinking is, I need to do my intake with this doctor. I need to meet him and talk out some of the things, and then him order the tests that he wants to do first. Then I can, on my own terms, on a different day, get them done at the little LabCorp doctory office thing that's near me that I can walk into anytime. I don't need to like wait months for a special appointment or anything like that, right? So I wanted to separate just going to see him for intake and getting my blood work done. So I asked and I begged for that, and they said, no go. You're going to have to come and fast before you come, so that we can do all your blood work when you get there. And that's how we're going to do it. No exceptions. Right. And I was like, okay, I'm not very stable. I've been in and out, but all my doctors, like, you're my last stop, is where I need, yeah, like this, no budging. Okay, fine. So I'm going to have to push through. And, in really hard times like this, you get really comfortable. I got really comfortable with saying in my head, okay, just one more hard thing, just one more hard day, one more hard moment, fine. It's necessary. So fast forward to right before the day, and we get COVID. So I have to call and delay the appointment. Not only that, but COVID, for me, on my already weakened body, already having issues, did a number
Mm-hmm.
on me. So I call and I'm like, look, we got COVID. We're at the tail end, but we're both not testing negative yet. Can we, put it down? So they get me down for like what, a week later. So right before I come to that appointment, and again, it's in my head, it's one more week, one more hard week, one more hard day. We can do this. So a week later it comes around, and it comes almost to my appointment, and they call me and they're like, hey, we scheduled the wrong appointment. We scheduled like just a normal appointment, which is only 30 minutes, and you need an intake appointment, which is a whole hour. So we need to reschedule you again. Okay, you know what? One bad on them, one bad on me. Well, is it really me because I got sick? Anyways, fine. One more week, one more hard week, one more hard week. Then I notice that they had taken out like an extra $1,000 or $2,000 of our bank account or off of our card or something. And so I'm like, hey, you overcharged me. And now I have to go back and forth with them on that. And they're like, oh my goodness, we totally did. We'll send that back as soon as the billing department gets that done. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So fast forward another week. All right, we make it there. I'm like crawling through the doors, laying on the ground in the waiting room, like psycho, I would imagine. I would see me and be like, why are you at this cute little doctor's office? And then you have me just laying on the ground, like breathing heavy and like I can't get my words out, whatever. So I wait, not an abnormally long time, thank goodness, go back. I have someone with me, and we sit there and talk to the doctor. Now, you would think maybe they might get the blood work first or do whatever so that I can stop fasting, which is really hard for me at this point in life, right? I've fasted, I drove like an hour or so here, and now we've got this going on. I can barely stand, and I'm like out of it. I need to eat and to drink to at least bring me to a little bit less of a crisis. So, no, That's when I have to communicate all of the things that have been going on, my medical history, why I'm not stable now, all of these crazy things, my folder, my binder, my novel of medical history, and all of that while I'm like this. So I muddle through, I get past it. I have my friend with me who says some things every once in a while. I'm grateful. And this doctor that I paid thousands of dollars to see, that's supposed to be better than any doctor, all of these things, tells me a whole bunch of stuff I already know. And I'm like, cool, but he's just throwing, his first initial thoughts at me. Fine. And then he goes, we'll get the blood work. It's going to show us so much about where you're at. Okay. 30 vials of blood. Now, if you don't know, that is a ridiculous amount of blood to take from someone who is not stable. It is probably way too much blood to take of someone. I don't know. But don't worry, because it didn't happen. So I fasted, drove all the way there, laid on a dirty waiting room floor with random people staring at me, who I'm sure, they're prim, they're proper, they've paid thousands of dollars to see this special fancy doctor, and they've got to look at me on the floor like, out, right? The nurse comes in to get my blood and goes, wait, we don't take your insurance here. So you need to just go to a LabCorp where they'll take your insurance. Otherwise, it's going to cost like thousands of dollars if I just take it. What? I begged for this to be a thing. And now you're telling me after I push so hard that that's the. Okay, one more hard thing. So I get in the car. I had brought a little bar with me to at least eat and some water, whatever. We're done with the appointment, and now the big thing to do is to get all the testing done, which is fine. That's what I wanted, anyways. I wanted all the testing so that I could see what's wrong and I could decide what other doctors to go to, what I want to do, because at this point in my life, like I'm a little mini doctor myself, especially for me and my body and my health. So I'm like, cool. Hence why I went to go see the fancy doctor, and his initial thoughts were nothing that I didn't already know or hear or whatever. So at this point, I've paid thousands of dollars for nothing. But rest assured, we're going to get the fancy blood work. It's going to give us a lot of answers. So we get home, and the LabCorp opens at 7 a.m. the next day. I'm still like spent, a couple months now, not stable and just going in and out of the ER, hospital stay, whatever. And I need my script or prescription, whatever it is, to get all this 30 vials of blood done, right? At my LabCorp. So I go on LabCorp. I'm like, I'm going to go. We're going to wake up at 7 a.m. and get there and get it done so that I can eat and live my life and get that going, right? So I'm like, oh, let me do that. I wake up, I fast, and I'm ready to go. And then it turns out they have not sent the script over. So I was there, you couldn't do it, all that time just wasted talking to me. You can just hand me the script or send it over right there. That's what I thought was happening, right? They were sending it over. They did not send it over. So I fast again because they're like, oh, okay, we'll send it. So I fast again to do it the next day. They did not send it yet again. So I ended up in the ER. My bad, but not really, because I fasted too much with my body too weak. So I was eating in between, but then I was fasting like the hours before you go to get the blood work done. Um, but my body couldn't handle it. So that didn't work out. I ended up in the ER, and the ER doctors are very familiar with me at that point. And she's like, I thought you were going to get to the functional doctor guy. Where are you on that? And it's like, we're there, and I just need to get that blood work done. And she's like, let's see if we can get the script and we can take some blood and stuff, because you're here and you're here because you're fasting, but also we're not clearing you to eat yet. So we could take extra blood and then give you. It's a whole fiasco, right? So we can't get a hold of this special doctor's office from the ER, even though it's well within hours, 9 to 5, couple hours. We can't get in touch with them all morning, everything. They still had not sent it over there, and we couldn't get them to send it over to the ER, which I don't think would have mattered because of what they needed. Anyways, fast forward another week because the ER doctors made me promise to wait at least a week before I fasted again. Another week goes by, fast again, go get the blood work done. It was really hard. I turned purple. I didn't turn purple, but parts of me did. My fingertips and stuff. And they only took 15 vials of blood. They opened that thing up and they went, oh, that's a lot of blood. And I was like, cool. I thought so too. It did not feel good. It felt like they were sucking my veins dry, literally. Like it was like skipping. Anyways, it was not the most fun experience. I got in the car, I ate and drank right away. And when we got home, um, we had called for one of those IVs. So
Mm-hmm.
the lady nurse came out and gave me an IV. Now we wait. How long? A month and a half. A month and a half for this special paperwork to come back. I don't think I should have lived another month and a half with everything that was going on.
Yeah, just from the fasting alone, I feel like that was a lot. That was probably too much for you, honestly, at that time at least, because there was other things obviously going on with you, and I feel like the fasting. I mean, maybe if it was the once, but the fact that that kept like things kept screwing up and caused you to have to do it multiple times. Oh my goodness, it was just like horrible. Like I can't even. The fact that you even did as well as you did with it kind of blows my mind. So kudos to you for that and for dealing with all those things and being patient enough. Because I feel like you were definitely going crazy, but even still, you pushed through and did the things that you needed to do, etc. And including dealing with the people that were kind of, yeah, dropping that ball.
Yeah, dropping the ball for sure. And then the thing is like, okay, maybe a bunch of unfortunate circumstances happening at once, got it. And I'm already like not stable, but the hospitals and the doctors that I'm going to can't stabilize me anyways. They don't have it. So this is my only option. So I'm just out in the world in crisis. There's really
Mhm.
no other options, right? So a month and a half goes by. I finally get my test results. And it turns out they only did half of the blood work. So I'm like, oh no. But half of the blood work is still a lot. It was 15 vials of blood. And there were a couple extra, like, there was like a blood sugar test that I did, like, by poking my finger. Like, there was a couple at home tests that I also sent that were out of pocket that were a couple $100 for like each one. It was an expensive time for my health and for our wallets. It was a lot of expense spent. I felt spent. Anyways, so they only did half of the blood work, but it gave us back so much information, right? And all those little at home tests, we got all that information back. And it's now with this functional doctor that can read these tests, right? And send them to me. So this functional doctor is supposed to send me these tests and go over them with me because he understands how to read them and what they are. That sounds great. So I set up my appointment for all of this to be read to me. And they call me a couple of days before and go, oh, we did the wrong appointment again. This appointment's going to need to be an hour because it's so much information and they want to go over everything. So we need to reset it. Okay, wait another week. Then they call me again and they're like, hey, you didn't get all of the testing done. We don't have it all back. And I was like, no, I did it for sure. double check from everywhere. I went to the LabCorp, they took all of my blood, I turned purple, and I did all my at home stuff and I sent it away. And I get notifications for that one because it's out of my pocket and it's like me. Anyways, so you should have all of it, but double check and let me know. So they're like, okay, okay. Well, then we'll keep your appointment, da 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 da. Then they call me back again. And they were like, no, no, no. When LabCorp took your blood, they were supposed to take 30 vials and not 15. And you might have thought that they took it all, and they said they took it all, but they missed one of the pages. So you only got half of the blood work done that you needed to get done. And I was like, first of all, I'm so glad they didn't take all of it because I was already purple and losing consciousness. Second of all, what in the world? That was such an ordeal. And at this point, I still haven't had any help, right? Because the hospital can't really do that much for me. The doctors can't do anything for me. It's this testing that I need done and read to me and get my results back, right? So I'm like, okay, well, you still have a ton of information from all of the other testing. We're just missing the part of the blood work. So let me go ahead and have the appointment for what I have done, and I'll get the other thing done because that's also going to take another month and a half to get the results back, right? They said no. I'm like, I paid you thousands of dollars just to have access and talk to you people and get this stuff done. And you're going to tell me, no, you're not going to have the appointment with me for the hordes of information that you have and don't want to give me? That's right, they didn't. They did not. So I was really bad at this point. And if you remember in the story, right before I went for the first appointment with this special doctor, that is my last hope, I got COVID and got really sick. So I've just been getting sicker, already unstable. Everyone says they can't help me. I need to go see this guy ASAP. And then I get COVID and I go downhill way more, faster. It's not looking good. I end up in the hospital a couple more times, unable to keep any sort of liquid food in me. My mouth is starting to blow up every time I eat anything. It's not looking good, right? It's not looking good. Fast forward to today. I'm still alive. So, case spoiler. So things worked out, but not with that doctor. So this doctor, you pay every month couple $100 or $200, something like that, to be able to still have access to them. That's not your appointment. You have to also pay for your appointments, but you just pay a couple $100 every month. And when you sign up with your couple $1,000s to get access, you're also signing up to see them for at least a year and pay that extra couple $100s a year. So they get so many thousands of dollars from you no matter what, day one, right? So we finish out the rest of the year. They will not see me unless I get this rest of this blood work done. But I'm so unstable at this point. There's no way. I'm too much in the hospital that there's no way. So fast forward, I'm doing a little bit better. By no means of that doctor, right? So I've seen other specialist practitioners. I've had other blood work. I've had other random tests, and we've done a couple things. And now I'm back to somewhat stable-ish of a place. And we've got a lot of information. We now have new diagnoses. We have new treatment plans. We have things going on, but they're still in like a more rare category. So the functional doctor would still be a good person to talk to about these things with some of the things going on. So I contact them again and I'm like, look, we have a lot more information. I have a lot more stuff to send. And, we never did get to go over that blood work from before. And I have a lot of things that I'm like, oh, means this means that. I have some questions that I'd like to ask for all of these things, whatever else. I would like to set an appointment with all my new information, what I've got going on, and talk to the doctor about that and my plan. And maybe he can help me prioritize what needs to go where, all the things. I had things, right? So I call and I go, okay, it's It's been time. We have our access still because we're, still paying the monthly thing. We've had a lot of information come to light and whatever else. I would like to meet with the doctor. Not unless you get the rest of the blood work done. I can't mute. I have all this in from all these other practice. We have a ton of test results to go over and plan. And like, absolutely not. Okay. So if I get the other 15 vials done that I never got done from a year ago, right? At this point, it was a very short year for me, but so much happened. Uh, can I come then? Let me ask the doctor. Absolutely not. You need to get all of the testing done. Now, that might not sound like a lot to you, but it was 30 vials of blood. Huge, a lot. And it was like, what, over $600 of testing at home. Some of it was covered, some of it wasn't. And it's a lot. It's like you're pricking yourself, you're doing days of all of this stuff from all of, and I went, I don't want to spend the money on that testing specifically when I have had other tests that are something similar recent, and I already did this like a year ago. Like some of these tests you don't normally do like that close together,
Yeah.
you know, because they're expensive and because your body isn't, like I understand, like I'm in a different place, but I'm in a different place with a lot of information and other specialists and practitioners that I had found that did help me and got me a lot of information and did even some of the testing that they wanted. I paid out of pocket that $500 for that test. You don't need to do that again for a couple years. Like, you know, whatever. You're the doctor. And I was like, I've got so much going on. I don't want to do that. I would like to see the doctor that I'm paying to have access to for my health and my records with everything that I have. Absolutely not. You have to come in as a whole new patient and you have to do all of this testing all over again, wait another month and have for all of it to come back and start that really long. If you want to see and talk to a doctor, talk to the doctor. So I said, I would like a refund. And there was more things that happened. The doctor was a little rude to me. Different things that happened. I had asked not to take one of the tests because I had just taken it like a month before with another practitioner that could do that test. They couldn't do all of the fancy testing, so that's why I didn't use them. But they did do one of the tests that was out of pocket that was $600, and I was like, I already did that. Literally, I have it to give you, and it was only a month ago, and he refused. Then in the beginning, and I've asked for like all of the. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. You are not helping me. If anything, I waited and did all this stuff that made me worse, and then waited a month ahead for nothing. You never saw me. I I want a refund. I want out. This is. I spend thousands and thousands of dollars to get sicker and have to spend thousands of dollars more to wait. That was more than just an expensive experience.
Yeah, I feel like we really you for a lot of these things, but even we, I guess, spent so much time, effort, and resources trying to get that all accomplished. And like you said, we just the money alone that we're paying them to get that help and that care, etc. And he won't even see you. He won't talk to you. I mean, he'll respond to you, I guess, but not like he won't have a conversation with you about these things.
Well, he only responded to me like once or twice, and he was not nice in those little email things, right? But everything else is through the nurse.
So, with all that being said and done, you are still in the same place, essentially, if not worse. And you wasted all that energy, time, and resources. And yeah, refund. Please hand it to me now. And even with that, now we have issues with that too.
Oh, yeah, they're not going to give us a refund. Not like that.
So we basically tried to have a refund of all that we had spent, and they only wanted to give us a very small, like a fraction of what we had asked for as a refund. And we were like, no, because you, no, unprofessional, weren't helping us in the ways that we needed help. And we asked for help and are paying for help. Absolutely not.
Wouldn't bend for anything, even though in the end it was like, oh yeah, and they didn't have their stuff together. They had pulled a couple thousand from our money a couple times mistakenly beyond what they were supposed to. And I had to call and go all this stuff. I am unstable. The hospital has kicked me out, going, we can't save your life because we can't do something, but it needs to be saved. And that's what I have to worry about is all of their going arounds. But the point is that there are multiple times in my life where I had to pay a lot more money than maybe someone with maybe the insurance covered it, maybe they didn't. And the doctor was no help. They wouldn't talk to me. He's not the only doctor that didn't really have any sort of conversation with me. I had other I've been into appointments that I've waited months for. I get there, I drove over an hour, waiting in the waiting room for forever. I finally get in. He walks in and goes, "There's nothing wrong with you. Why are you even here?" Never met me before in my life, nothing. And not only does this mean like, oh, why would I want to continue with such an assuming doctor that does not want to help from minute one? And then I heard him out in the hall talking to other people about my test results that I had sent ahead of time, and talking about how, the doctor that I had went to just right, the last specialist that I went to before was scamming people, and they were not doing things right because they sent me there and there's nothing wrong with them, and this is how they're doing their tests and interpreting them. And if only he could see me now. If only he could see me when I was in the hospital dying not long after. If only he could see, like it. But I don't need to prove myself. I need someone who's going, I wonder what is wrong with you. Well, let me hear your symptoms. If I don't think it's what this doctor said last, let me hear your symptoms. Let's do these tests. Are there any tests that you want to do? Let's go down this road. Because you've never met me in my life. What do you know? So many a times have I had these things happen. So it's like throwing money into the garbage. It's not fair. It's not helpful. It's not me giving money and getting value in return. Being sick is expensive.
Yeah, it's beyond expensive, not just monetarily wise, but on your on your nerves, on your energy, all that stuff. Oh, on us, yeah,
Yeah.
together. Yeah, it's kind of sad too because I there was the information that I had come across where it talks about care and how if your patient is in pain, you don't treat them as if, even if the results came back, for example, as they don't have anything necessarily conclusive that should be causing them pain. That doesn't mean that you just completely treat them as if they aren't going through it and as if they're crazy and don't know what they're talking about. You get to the bottom of it. You keep looking and you treat them with dignity and you treat them with kindness and respect. Just because you have a job and maybe need to see other people, that doesn't mean that voids out your care for your patient. So I just think it's sad that you have unfortunately had doctors that treated you as such and have not treated you the way they should be and are, I'm pretty sure, are being told or trained to be treating you.
I didn't love that experience. And I hate that it's probably an experience we're still going to have to experience because of my health things and having to go to doctors and whatnot.
Oh yeah, and not to mention, again, like we touched on, you're not even getting the help that you need. So it's like, how crushing is that? That you're going for this help, you know, you go in optimistic, obviously, like, oh, they can find some things, they can get some things done, and I might be able to actually progress and get somewhere with things, and at least have some semblance of stability, normal, etc. And then for that to be how they treat you, I mean, come on, it's awful.
Yeah. It didn't feel nice. Now, would it be of any surprise at this point, with just this small little blip of information of our lives, if we were to tell you that at this time, my husband and I talked, and I was like, I think I need you to come home. I think you need to stop working outside of the home and going to work every day. Like, I was having way too many episodes and going down. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't pull up the blanket. I couldn't drink a glass of water by myself. I couldn't nothing. So I talked to Robbie and I was like, I think I need you to come home. I don't see how I'm gonna survive in the circumstances that we're in right now. I need someone to take care of me, and it needs to be you apparently. And we don't have any extra money at this point. Things are getting real tight financially. In fact, I think that they're probably more than tight at that point. And still, and yet and still, I felt like the best thing was for you to come home and for us to get me stable enough somehow, somewhere. And then we were going to have to figure something out with the money. And it became a full time job for you. You were exhausted. I remember points you being like, I don't know how I'm going to do this anymore.
Oh, you mean when I was still trying to work and do that?
Well, and then even right after that, when you weren't working, in the beginning, you were probably just tired from working and trying to help me. But then you went into just helping me. But we went through so much. I was going through so much.
Yeah, because with all that was going on, it was causing you to be very like fluctuating in your schedule. So you were like awake during the night, but then and then you would maybe take a little baby nap, and then you would be awake the rest of the day. And so that meant that you were needing help, not necessarily 24 hours, but pretty darn close to 24 hours a day. And so that meant that me trying to first of all know when to rest, and even then it's like I can't just necessarily force myself to sleep sometimes. I just have to either go to sleep when I'm tired, or something. So yeah, that was kind of a struggle trying to figure that out. And then like you said, especially when it was either kind of partially during when I was still working, and then even after that, just having been used to that kind of lifestyle, having to transition now into like helping with all those things, and even the kinds of things to help with too, whether it was related to you personally, or having to pick up on doing things maybe around the house that it's not that they had to be one or the other person, or like had to be all on you, but it was like I just wasn't used to doing them as much because I wasn't home as much because I was working.
Mhm. Yeah, and when we got married, that was the deal. Was I was gonna do most of the stuff in the house, and the cleaning and the cooking and the grocery shopping, the laundry, all that kind of stuff. Budgeting the the books. I don't know, all that kind of stuff. And then I went down hard, and it was like, whoa, all of a sudden you were thrown into being my caretaker in a crisis situation and having to do everything. Not to mention, it's not wasn't just I needed 24-hour care, and we were at home and you could just help me and that was it. It was an emergency. And so many times we ended up in the emergency room, which was a whole night deal or a whole day deal, or we were there for 12 hours and we'd come home, be home for like 12 hours, and we'd go back for another 12 hours. We'd come home, be home for 6 hours. We'd go to a specialist. We'd be there for 6 hours. We'd come home. And then the drive everywhere was an hour because we live in the middle of nowhere for some reason. It was a full-time job. Just uh, I don't know how you did it. I don't really know how either of us did it. I don't want to think about the time. The but hats off to us.
Hats off to you because you were the one that was really having a hard time. So, but yeah, despite all that, you were really like hanging in there, and I'm super glad that it didn't get any worse than it did. I mean, obviously it was horrible, but that it didn't get any worse than that, and that we made it through it. You made it through it, and we've gotten you here too. We've managed to find some things and ways to kind of help get you to a more stable place, despite not getting any extra oomph from outside help and whatnot.
Yeah. And then we pulled we picked up another full-time job of paperwork and trying to file for disability and long-term care service, which, my goodness, the amount of paperwork and hoops you have to jump through is a whole nother job. So we went ahead and went through that process, and we were able, it takes, a couple months, even if you approved, like it just takes some time. Which, I felt like a lot of that experience, I felt like I didn't have time. We don't have time, but we made it through. It's fine. Um, so we did that. We applied for a couple of those things, and we got a long-term care service. Um, which was helpful. And at the time, it was when they had like some special things going on that I had already started thinking, like, okay, these things are going to end when they end all of the, extra things that they're doing during the pandemic. And that was going to put us down into another hole again. So we needed to come up with a plan.
The extra provisions, you mean, that they had for during the pandemic?
Right, right. So let's take advantage of those. Let's take advantage of having that for now. Um, and that's when, during that time, is when we had, you know, some money through that to keep us going. And I got to a stable point, or a more stable point eventually. And then someone messed up my paperwork, and that turned into a nightmare. So, mm, but at some point, my brain started coming back, and I was able to at least think for a little bit out of crisis mode. Um, so I was able to just take a peek into like what's happening, like where's our house at, what is getting done, what isn't getting done, where's the budgeting, all the things. So I brought up some things to you, and we talked, and we decided to leave and go live with one of my parents, which was wonderful. Thank goodness for them. And we also decided to start looking into some options of what we could do to earn money, to earn enough money, since now we're realizing like this is going to be an ongoing journey for me, and it's expensive. It's really expensive. And so we're going to need enough money to cover my care and some other intricacy things that we'll talk about later. But I still need a caregiver. We've talked, and even though someone messed up my paperwork and I got kicked off of long term care service for a while, uh, I still needed a caregiver. So now we're starting. So at this point in the story and in the journey, we're talking about what are we going to do. So we're making our list of, okay, we need to either be able to pay for a caregiver or pay for a caregiver part-time. We need to pay for all of the things I need, all of my compression, just all of the extra things that make sense for me, my treatment plans that aren't covered, my doctors that aren't covered, whatever.
Oh yeah, and all that, and then even just the cost of living. I mean, the prices for anything grocery wise, even let alone other things, is just through the roof. And not to mention the fact that we have to kind of stick to a specific kind of food. Like we need to tailor it more organic because of how things that aren't organic can affect you because you're more sensitive to those things with your diet and what you intake into your body. So all that combined together makes just our regular living expenses like insane.
Yeah. I don't want to ever tell anyone my grocery bill because they're going to be like, how could you? And it's like, we're not buying anything crazy either. Like, we're not like buying special ingredients or all of these snacks or nope, we're buying normal whole foods, some of them organic. And
Yeah, that it's like you said, we're not even getting like I guess what some couples would call fun food. Something that's more enjoyable. We're literally getting like chicken, vegetables, and we don't even get to put very fun sauces on them and seasonings because of our dietary restrictions.
yeah, crazy. It's crazy. Looking at our budget makes me cringe because our needs are just so inflated. And it's interesting too because if I try to talk to someone who isn't in this position, who has never had to do pay for those kinds of things out of necessity, they're like, "Well, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just buy, you know, ramen and live off of that until you can get your financial situation?" I won't live. I will be in the hospital within a day.
Let's put it this way: if we could live on that, we would, because we just like those things. Period. But we can't. It would be a cost to you as far as your body's integrity. Your body would just be shot from eating that kind of stuff. It would be horrible. And so we have to do what we can to keep you healthy, and that's just not it.
So at this point, we're going, okay, groceries are expensive, my medicines, all of these things are necessary, but they're going to cost us a pretty penny. And now we have some hospital bills that we need to pay. And now also we're living with one of my parents, and I love them. They love me. They probably don't want us here forever, though. So we're like, okay, we need to regroup. And now we need to change a lot of our thinking and figure out we need to search and find something that is going to resonate with our life and fit around it and fit around our health and serve us.
And what we had toyed around with was, what can we do from home essentially? What kind of jobs are there even to do from home? And we looked into some of those things, and a lot of them weren't going to work out because, for a few reasons, it was either one, you had to have the kind of schooling for it. Either you had to be properly trained, had gone through that schooling, etc., or it was having experience already in that field, or all of the above. It was always something that was like we didn't have that going for us. And so we wouldn't fit that criteria, and thus we couldn't really reach out for that. Or it was only partially remote, and you would still have to go out of the house at some point or some points, So it was always something that we couldn't find what we're looking for that would help our situation.
Yeah. But out of desperation, we did apply for all of those for you. We applied for the in-home, for remote jobs, for partially remote jobs. And we eventually got so desperate, we applied for just like Chick-fil-A. You go to Chick-fil-A, and we're like, we don't know what we're going to do with me because I still need a caregiver, but like, we need income. And then we realized we can start a podcast. So we'll see you next week.